Well, Rennie asked me to be here for my longtime friend and longtime broadcast partner, Jim Cott, so that was an immediate yes. Then he said Hal Richman will also be inducted, and even if I was inclined to say no, which I'm not, most of you realize it is futile to say no about anything to Rennie LaRue because he is the most relentless, indefatigable, won't take no for an answer for anything from anybody, so you just wave the white flag and you do whatever he wants you to do. So, how many of you have ever played Stratomatic? There you go. This man right here, Hal Richman, aged 97, invented Stratomatic in 1961. I began playing in 1964 when I was 12 years old. And like many of you of a certain age, I had some experience with other baseball board games, and they all sucked. Ethan Allen baseball, there was like a little dial, and you spun it, and the only difference between Babe Ruth and Pee Wee Reese was that Babe's home run was like this and Pee Wee's home run was like that. Strategy played no part. Pitching played no part. None of it made any sense. There were games where marbles rolled into little spaces, and if you were lucky, it stopped on a double, and if you were unlucky, it stopped on a strikeout. There were games you played with decks of cards, and none of them made any sense until Stratomatic came along. Stratomatic actually reflected the probabilities of every player in the major leagues. And you could actually employ strategy. You could bunt. You could hit and run. You could utilize speed. You could play the infield in or play for the double play. Every player had a defensive rating. And on top of it, shortly after, sometime maybe in the 70s, Hal and company came up with all-time teams. So now I was familiarizing myself with the Gas House Gang Cardinals, the Murderers Row Yankees, the Boys of Summer Dodgers. And one team I remember especially well was Walter Johnson's 1924 Washington Senators. Not just because of the big train, Walter Johnson, one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history, and his Hall of Fame teammate, outfielder Sam Rice, but because, and this struck me even as a kid, their roster included Furpo Marbury, Slim McGrew, Curly Ogden, Pinky Hargrave, Muddy Rule, Mule Shirley, Showboat Fisher, Goose Goslin, Doc Prothrow, and for good measure, Roger Peckinpah. There aren't as many colorful baseball names these days as apparently there were back more than 100 years ago. We can look to this man who was actually alive almost 100 years ago, and here he stands before us, Hal Richman, to be inducted into the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, just a moment. There were never incorrect statistics on any Stratomatic card. And I always trusted the stats that they handed me through the years at NBC. I shouldn't have trusted, just walking through the door, the person who told me that Hal Richman is 97. He's just a young pup. He's 89. He's 89. Hal Richman.